All right. Peace, Moors. Peace and love. Hopefully everybody can hear me. We're going live right now. Just want to, before we go live, just want to make sure everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, please type a 1 in the chat. Thank you and gratitude. Please type a 1 in the chat. Just want to make sure we can be heard. Okay, good. All right, so here we go, Moors. Before we get started, as always, we just want to let everybody know this video represents the views of the presenters and our guests based off our personal research and life experience. In no way is this content endorsed by or an official representation of the official policies of any other organizations out there. And once again, I want to thank you, everybody who typed a 1 in the chat. Thank you for letting me know you can hear us. Appreciate you, Moors. Everybody who typed a 1, make sure you click like and share this video. I'm going to be sharing some advice today, but before we do that, I always rise and give the highest praise to the Most High, Father God Allah. We extend honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate, spreading love with light bringers. Honors to the forerunner, our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for preparing the way for the prophet. We extend honors to all the sheiks, all the adepts, all the faithful Moors, all of them, all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish Divine National Movement. All right. And we also extend honors to everything Moorish and honors to all the faithful Moorish American Muslims here on this holy day, all the light bringers watching right now. Okay, make sure you hit that like and share button. Want to say good evening, good evening. You're so used to going live a little later on, but good afternoon, everybody listening to the True and Living Light Bringer Moors in America. As always, I'm your brother, Lloyd Douglas L., also known as Sharif Ali. Here we uncover and bring glorious light to all issues pertinent to the Moorish American paradigm, because that's what we do here on this podcast known as Moors in America. Hope everybody is having an amazing afternoon. Hope everybody's hitting the share button, liking and sharing this. So what we're going to do today, we're going to enlighten everybody as to the true dynamics of the movement. In this movement, we have vultures, we have scavengers. There's all types, and everyone has their place in this. If you saw the picture on the thumbnail, you saw the scavenger pile. Everyone has their place in this, right in the circle of life. So we're not hating on the plotters, but Moors do need to know what's going on. Everyone needs to know what's going on, so that you have a widened view, or a better view of what you're actually dealing with. We don't want anyone getting caught up out here. We don't want anyone wasting their time or getting disillusioned, getting pushed out because you don't know what this movement is really composed of. Okay? And so in light of that, I just want to thank you all for coming. Make sure you click like and share. When we come back, we're going to expand on this topic. You don't want to miss it. This is going to be great advice for all the Moors, regardless of how long you've been in the movement. So make sure you grab some people to watch this with you. Grab some friends. That means share this. And on that note, we're going to get started. Peace and love, Moors.
I'm a Moorish American. Peace.
Yeah. Hey, 5 on the right, 2 on the left, man. You know what time it is. Yo. We just Moors in America, soar through the shores and endure criminal acts of war on our character. 7 years after the fourth score, no reward. Shout out to the most courageous, they was jumping over barriers. Where does that compare to you? We come from a place where you scared to visit our area. We come from a place where it's scary for good Samaritans. Heavy luggage we carrying, babies having babies. It's crazy being American. Praise the one and only Allah, there's no comparison. La ilaha illa Allah, body and buried gin. Laughing at you clowns like ha-ha, dodging the Nephilim. Conquer lower self with the high, follow your regimen. Way before they came we were gods and now we specimen. Tried to take the light from our eyes, thank God for Edison. Then they put the wool on our eyes, it's so embarrassing. Now we travel frequently, we should invest in Sheraton. All of us got gold on our bodies whenever we stepping in. Screaming Ramadan, Mubarak, training the flesh again. Wishing we could move as a unit just like the Mexicans. Dodging all the foods with estrogen, synthetic medicines. All sin isn't devilish. Sometimes the decisions that you make come for a better gift. Sometimes when you sin is to relate to all your brethren. Heavenly gates all in our face, we the champions. We live in the sky, we see the angels on the chariots. Waiting on the $20 bill, face a Harriet. I bet you I'ma carry it. I'm in love with music to the point I wanna marry it. But my love for people is greater, so I write messages. Largest spending power, but we still sit at a deficit. Living amongst prejudice, even at our residence. Moors in America, flourishing, excellent. Let's buy up some neighborhoods and groom our own president. Yeah. And I come to you today with all intentions of spreading love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
All right, Moors, peace and love. We're here. We're going to be speaking about, as I said earlier, speaking about Caveat Emptor, letting everybody know what you're dealing with, giving everyone a good idea of what you're up against. We don't want people getting disillusioned and turned away, you know? I mean, in one aspect, you could say it's sad but true. But on another aspect, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. So everything that we see that looks like a perceived obstacle or challenge, it's here for a reason, only to strengthen you. So we want to enlighten Moors on that. And like I said, this is something that, regardless of how long you've been in the movement, this will be something to share that we can all learn from. So we're going to speak on that. And one of the things that I wanted to do was I want to read from Caveat Emptor, Moors. Okay, let's see if we can get that up here. Caveat Emptor. Okay, here we go, Moors. So for those of you who never seen that, that's in the Moorish literature, right? Moorish literature is a compilation of articles that were published in the Moorish Guide and different proclamations that the Prophet put out in his lifetime while he was here in the flesh. Okay, and it's information is pertinent to us, not just back in the 1920s, but even now. Okay, in nearly 100 years later. And we're going to read Caveat Emptor real fast. And let me see if we can get something to work, man. On here it says we can play background music now. Let's see if we could do that, if that's not too intrusive. Okay, maybe we can get that going some other time. But we're going to read Caveat Emptor Moors and pay attention. And this is basically what we're talking about today. So we have in Moorish literature, Caveat Emptor Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. Now, remember, this is actually prepared by the prophet, and he's letting you know, he's giving you a description of what we are ideally, right? We're men who are upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones, right? We take care of our families. We're independent. We're fearless. We're standing upright, meaning we're not dependent on anyone else, right? We're not cowering down, okay? And we follow the prophet to a destiny, which means we're all going the same direction. We follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain or unknown. So we know that our success is guaranteed. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We're all Muslims practicing Islam. Islam means peace, right? This is the impregnable doctrine. Nothing can penetrate it, okay? And it's built upon our divine principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Happy Holy Day, Muslims. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such realm. So people who come in, who hear about this on the internet or in the streets, and they see people maybe selling packets telling people that you can use this to get out of jail. You can use this to get out of prison. It's low level things. Like you can use this, you know, even though you got the gun charges or you robbed somebody, right? You can get out of that. Or that you can get out, you don't need a driver's license, right? You don't need to abide by anyone's laws. You can just be out here lawless. It's folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits who are coming in with their plans, because the people who are pushing this, they got something to sell. And if they don't have something to sell, they're foolish. They're pushing it for someone else who has something to sell to you, right? So yeah, some people are doing it for free because they don't realize that they're getting taken advantage of. So it's folly though. It's not going to work. Ultimately, it fails. Okay. And so to try to invade such realm, you're coming in with low level ideals or no ideals at all, and trying to penetrate a movement which is built upon divine principles. You can't do it. It's not going to work. And it's starting to be exposed, and I see it happening. I see people waking up, people who were pushing right to travel and all these things hardcore. They're realizing it doesn't work, and they're finding the prophet. And now, guess what? They're exposing that mess too. Even people who were pushing it hardcore a year ago, they're waking up. Okay? Whether they learned the hard way or they just, got wiser over time. They try, but their own bad plannings brings down wrath upon their heads, like the sword old Damocles had, right? Damocles, the sword of Damocles, right? Hanging over his head by like a horsehair, a thin strand, okay? So it doesn't matter how hard they try, it's not going to work. Intrigue and scurrilous cunnings find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. So this is what's happening now. This one, I wanted to highlight that because we're watching this occur right now. People who were able to push I'm gonna call it bootleg Moors. The bootleg Moors, like for a while, that was all people saw who were coming into the movement. I say for at least a decade, maybe even longer, maybe 2 decades, right? Maybe even longer than that, maybe even going back into the 90s. So from the 90s to the early 2000s, up in even until now, the present, a lot of people, this is the only way you found out about the Moors. It was people who were pushing, you don't need a driver's license. You don't need to pay for child support. But Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless. So you care for your loved ones regardless. Okay. But, you know, people trying to give you these little ways out. You know, you rob that old woman. Don't worry. You don't got to serve no time. You can hop on this and get out. Right. So people literally, right, we're coming in the wrong way. Right. Bootleg Moors. This is how they were finding out about it. But things are changing now, because even some people who were pushing that bootleg stuff for years, they're waking up and now they're getting behind the prophet. And if you're behind the prophet, we follow the prophet. We're going in one direction. Destiny is neither uncertain nor unknown, meaning we're traveling to success. We're traveling to prosperity. We're trampling over anything in our way, right? Success, prosperity, salvation, right? Salvation from an earthly perspective, right? Earthly and divine salvation. So this is the direction we're going in. We're coming into a new age. The prophet came, right? The end of the age of Pisces, beginning of the age of Aquarius, to prepare us, and not only us, but then eventually the entire world for a new age of enlightenment, right? So we're leaving behind all of that stuff. Okay, so Moors coming in with the low-level bootleg, they're starting to find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors, because we can't stay stupid forever. So even though for a while that was the only way that people even found out about Moorish anything, they serve their purpose. Everyone serves their purpose. So we're not here to knock the hungry scavengers. We're not here to knock the vultures, right? Vultures have their place in the circle of life. They have their place in the food chain. So they helped to spread the message. Literally, that's what they did. Did my screen share go down? Screen share went out. I didn't even know that. So the vultures also have their place in this. Hey, you go to place. Go to place. Go to place. So everybody has their place in here. Okay. And so we're not knocking that. People who were pushing that for the longest, they helped to get the movement out there and to get it rolling. So everyone has their place. But now they have to pick their game up too. If not, they're going to be left behind. Right. And I don't mean to skip around, but let's go to the last few verses in Caveat Emptor. We're going to go right back up here, but it says a few feet below is another road where schemers work. You don't want to be down there. You don't want to be on that road, because they think they're on the same road with the true Moors, but they're not. They're not. So you don't want to be on that road. So even those who help to spread the movement, now they got to clean their act up too and get on the right path now. Okay, because if we're truly following the prophet, there's only one direction we can move in. So you don't want to be down there anymore. You want to pick it up, because if not, you're going to find it even more difficult. It's a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors, because once we get on the right path, we don't have time for the folly. It's like, look, you're either with the prophet or you're not. If you don't follow the law, you're ignoring this law, you want to overlook this law for whatever reason, you're one of the plotters. You're one of the scavengers. You're a plotter. You're a purveyor. You either follow the prophet and follow the laws all the time, or you got to go. Okay? That's how it is. You'll find a difficult path to travel, because we're not going to look the other way. We're not going to let it go. So people are now starting to call the BS out, because that's what it is. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You hear that? It's been well planned. So even though it may look like, well, you know, he came along way back in the 1920s and he made the transition, or he died, if you want to say he died, whatever. He made that transition and he was ahead of his time, you know, and, you know, no, everything happened right on time. Okay. This movement was well planned, even on the soul plane, planned even on another level that maybe we can understand from an earthly perspective, you know, because it goes beyond the physical. So it was a well-planned movement. All right. And so I'm showing you that because nothing can stop what's happening now. All right. And so I say this again to just show Moors who that they're on with knocking them, but it has to be known. It has to, even if they're not going to recognize. It's already been spoken of that they won't recognize, they won't know, but you must know more. If you truly follow the prophet, you must know who and what you're dealing with. So let's get back in here to Caveat Emptor, and we're speaking on this for a reason. Moors, bear with me. Even if all this is new to you and you're like, what's going on? Well, when you start to study, you'll begin to understand. You'll gain deeper insight on what's really going on here. I'm not speaking in riddles or anything, or saying, anything real complex. But yeah, some of this stuff may be a lot for you if you're new to the movement. But I would say study, get the literature, get the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, get Moorish literature, get the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Study with us or study with another temple, okay? And you'll begin to gain deeper insight. But we're going to go back to this, right? So this is so, right? And what he's saying, this is so. The people who were planning and plotting, right? They're finding a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so. So the prophet was speaking. He may have been speaking about things back then, but he's really speaking about right now, right? Speaking about nearly 100 years after he made the transition. Okay, he said they would find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Okay, so that may sound like some spooky, like, woo-woo is out there type stuff to you, but I'm telling you, this is real. All right, this is real. So, moving on. Prophet Noble Drew Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. He knows. Just like we know. It doesn't matter what people say or do. Your actions speak louder than words. And how people conduct themselves and carry themselves also lets us know who's really following the prophet or not. Who's really on the high road. They are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. So people may have thought, that, we could come in and hijack the movement. We'll come in and we'll because literally we have people who are positioning themselves. And I'm not just talking about people who are like out here encouraging Moors to do things that put themselves in harm's way, because you have that element too, unfortunately. Some of you have seen the stuff on the news. I don't want to put those Moors out there, those Moors names out there, the ones that got arrested for the foolishness. I don't want to put their names out there, right? But some of you have seen it. You had you had a Moor who actually squatted in a woman's house, and she's Asiatic. He went into a sister's house. She had just moved into the house. She just bought it. He went in there trying to squat in the house. Like, that's not noble. That's not what the prophet was speaking of when he said Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain or unknown. That's cowardly. That's weak. That's pitiful. So that's not what the prophet was speaking about. So you have people positioning themselves as some type of leaders who are doing things like that, who are promoting this. And if others are following that, they're setting themselves up to ruin their own lives, to wind up going to jail. Might have never been to jail before. Now you got a record, right? That's not right. That's terrible, right? So this is what the prophet was saying, that people like that, they're not the vanguard of the movement. We are. Those who truly follow the prophet, who are at least working, not saying that we're perfect, but who are at least working to be upstanding, taking care of our own families, working, and who take this seriously. Those are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. Okay? All of the Moors are active, not passive. Active, not passive doesn't mean getting out here trying to squat in people's houses, getting out here trying to, argue right to travel. Active means, okay, practicing group economics like the prophet did, starting businesses like the prophet did, getting land, getting real estate, right? Getting if you don't know farming or understanding farming, working with other Moors, other Asiatic people who do have farms, so that you can begin to get land and start farming and growing food. You need food, don't you? Start growing your own food, right? All it's starting to take care of all of the things that we need. That's being active. Being active, not passive. Being active doesn't mean you're always in court for no reason, filing this paperwork for no reason, but not having a bank, not having your own. The Prophet, man, I apologize, I don't have the articles up here from the Moorish guy with the Prophet saying, Moors, how would you like to have your own towns, your own mayors, right? That's being active, moving in that direction, following the Prophet. One direction, Moors, not squatting in some lady's house, some Asiatic woman who just got a house. That's cowardly, that's weak. Not talking about that person, because unfortunately, it's not just one person who did that. Unfortunately, there are others who are doing this foolishness too. Okay? So not, jumping on one guy who did something despicable that he shouldn't have been doing. Okay, but we are pointing it out that they think, because some of them aren't, they're not like sent into the community to cause confusion. They got caught up. They don't realize, like it says here, they think they're on the same road, but they're not, because they don't follow the Prophet. Okay, so a member's interest can only be in one direction. And having traveled over the road years before, the Prophet knows where every member is along the road. He knows. A few feet below, okay, is another road where schemers work, where traitors grin. They grinning in your face. They acting like they're you, like they're on the same path with you, okay? But some of them, they're taking advantage of the fact that your guard is down, because you're happy that you know who you are. You're proclaiming your nationality. You want to do something positive, and they're taking advantage of that. They're calling themselves Moors too, because they know that your guard is down. So he'll fall for this. I could sell him this paperwork. I could tell him this and that, right? You have Moors out here selling. No, I'm not gonna speak on it. You have a lot of Moors doing stuff, man. They getting folks charging like $800 for something that is useless. Okay, so that's why it says a few feet below is another road where schemers work. And look, I'm not just acting like it's just Moors that's in the street that's doing this. You have Moors in the temples that are just as bad, right? They need to be out on the street. They need to get kicked out of the temple. They shouldn't even be members because they don't even take it seriously. But at the least, they need to step down. So it's not just one direction. They're all over the place. You need to follow. You need to follow the divine instructions that the Prophet gave us so that you can recognize. All right, but a few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traitors grin, and culprits bask in the sun. They think they are on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun, right? So the true Moors, true Muslims, high above on a pinnacle. You see it. We see what's taking place. Hungry scavengers fly high, catch scent, and devour and leave crying out. Caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. Caveat emptor means buyer beware. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks wait. Okay, and let's go back in here. Let me see what's being said in the chat now. Islam, brother Hannibal, Islam. All right, so Moors. This is what's happening, okay? Now, we have people that are playing around with the movement. Even though the Prophet said he came to prepare to save us from the wrath, which is sure to come. He said, this ain't no joke. The wrath is sure to come, okay? Um, if you aren't aware of where that came from, that's in the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, last chapter. Okay, chapter 48, the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies, verse 1. The last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was divinely prepared divinely in due time. So he wasn't too early. We may have needed some time, because we were asleep. We may have needed some more time to incubate and to get ready, but he was divinely prepared in due time. That means he was right on time. Okay. The last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. Okay, and so you have that description in there too in Caveat Emptor. This the last days, and the wrath is here. We see it. Those of us with eyes to see, you see it, right? You see what they're trying to get everybody to do, and what they're trying to push for you. You're gonna have to have a passport or some type of ID just to get food, just to travel, right? They're pushing it. Okay. And so even with all this, the Georgia Guidestones, Morris, the Georgia Guidestones are no joke. Come on, people. Who's playing around here? Who has time to play around? Okay. Right, Morris? You know where I'm going with this, right? Morris, you know where I'm going with this. So there's no time to play around, but you have people, you have scavengers, you have plotters out here. And they playing around like they got time to play for real. And there's no time. The wrath is here, Morris. Islam, Brother Jackson Bay, Islam. The Georgia Guidestones. This is real. It's no joke. Built in 1980. What does it say on there? They let you know that the population is going to be reduced and it must be maintained under 500 million. This was so important, it had to be carved in stone, huge stones that weigh tons, and carved into at least 8 different languages. And then placed at a point where even though the seas are going to rise, it still will stand, right? So all of this thought and work went into this. And people think it's a game out here. You think, man, I could I could get in here and bum around and play around with the movement, get in here and try to make Moors discouraged, make Moors want to quit, selling, pushing paperwork, encouraging Moors to do things is going to ruin their lives. Like, come on. So the wrath is here. It's sure to come. So we see it, Moors. And this is what this is all about. What I'm going to do right now, Islam, Brother Hannibal said $3,000 fleecing the people and then mixing in the sovereign citizen rhetoric, the redemption manual rhetoric, and pushing that. And if you want to push that, if you want to educate people on that, fine, but don't act like that has anything to do with the Moorish Divine National Movement, because it doesn't. In many ways, it might sidetrack you and get you away from, building a business or something that is going to actually make you successful. All right, but it has nothing to do with the movement. And so, yeah, and then on top of that, law enforcement across the whole nation, they already put out the paper, educated law enforcement across the whole nation about this whole sovereign citizen Moor, quasi-black Moor movement. They've already let it be known. All the rhetoric, everything is being used. So if you say certain words, you going on a terrorist list. Okay, and just in light of that, with common sense, would tell you, okay, we need to back away from that. It ain't working. Right? They already put it out there, but we're gonna stick to what the prophet brought because our success is guaranteed. And I wanted to share that caveat emptor because, man, he was speaking about right now. All right. He wasn't playing around and he let it be known. And, this isn't to just be repeating stuff, but just to make sure people get it. Right. Okay. The prophet knows those within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguards of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing it, Moors. I'm telling you, I've seen Moors who were stuck on the sovereign citizen rhetoric. That's what it active. And now, I mean, movement. Because now it's being known, okay, we have divine instructions that guarantee our success. And it's not rocket science. It's easy to get in alignment with these divine instructions, to get in alignment with our holy covenant. It's not hard. It's not. If you have a group of Moors in your city, why aren't y'all putting up money and starting businesses, getting land? That's easy to do. So a member's interest can only be in one direction. Okay. And having traveled on the road years before, remember the prophet was doing this in Jim Crow times. May have been even harder. Definitely was harder to move around. So he knows where every member is along the road. So it doesn't matter what people are doing. If they still pushing that mess, they're going to find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors, because now that we're awake and alert. Right before, we didn't even know about the prophet. They didn't teach us this in schools. I was born in 1980. Okay. That's how old I am. They didn't teach us about the prophet. They didn't even teach us about Malcolm X. So, you know, they weren't teaching us about the prophet. Our parents didn't know, so they couldn't teach us. It's not their fault. Some of us, our grandparents didn't even know. First time I ever saw a grown man wearing a fez was in Memphis, Tennessee. And that was the brother, the angel. I give respect to the angel, brother Elihu Pleasant Bay. You know, for me, that brother's an angel because he let me know about the prophet. He let me know that I'm a Moor, right? And I was already a grown man in my 20s before I ever saw anyone wearing a fez. It wasn't like some internet stuff for me where I just saw YouTube videos and things like that. So I'm just letting you know, like, you know, it wasn't out there. Okay. And that's where we're at. And for many of us, the only way we found out about it maybe would be through the whole, you know, sovereign citizen rhetoric. But now, for those of you who came in that way, now it's time to get right. Get with the prophet. Read the prophet's literature so that you know what's real and what's not. And so that you can avoid the pitfalls and avoid the wrath that is sure to come. It's here. There's no other way we can go. I don't know how these other Moors are still doing it if they're leaving the whole economic thing out, because the prophet let it be known that economic slavery is the worst plight that we face. So anyone who's leaving that out, right? Look at this. In connection with our beliefs, we must promote economic security, financial prosperity. This is a part of our religion. Okay, that's also in Moorish literature over here, and everybody can find that. You can find this online, but it's in Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America, right? But this is a part of our religion, Moors. Okay, that's why it says, in connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. Promote the preaching. This is the wording of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. So this is a part of our mission to get out there. No other thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power. This is from the prophet. No other thing is more needed among us than greater economic power. He's not saying no other thing is more important than, you know, whatever. We must sell these packages. We must push this paperwork, right? You can't have a birth certificate. I mean, not birth certificate, a driver's license. No, it's economic security, economic power. No other thing is more needed among us, right? A beggar people. Well, let me go back. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. We can't stick our heads in the sand and ignore that. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities in life. So, you know, we can't even realize our full potential if we don't achieve more economic power, greater economic power. You know, who knows what latent powers we have that we are capable of pulling out. But we can't do that if we're trying to just struggling, just tread in water. and tread in water to keep your head above the water. What's the water? The cares of the world. Drowning in the cares of the world, just struggling, keep my head above the water. We can't realize our spiritual greatness. Okay? There's no, we can do amazing things, but we're hamstrung if we don't take care of that. So this is chief among our duties. It's part of our religion, the preaching of economic security. This is part of our religion, man. So that's why the prophet said, open the businesses in my name or the temple's name. But then you have the corruption within the temple, with the leadership, where you don't want to open the business and have them trying to get their hands on it because they're not even doing right. Right. So that has to be taken care of, Morris. It has to be taken care of. We can't let that stuff go. And then you can't stick your head in the sand. We have to take care of that economic security. Anywhere you have Moors, you don't want to come together and talk about, all that sovereign citizen mess. Y'all put the money up and then start to figure out what you're going to do to increase your economic security, your economic power. This is the preaching of it. It's a part of our religion. Okay. That's why it says, read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. Okay. So, and this was by the prophet. So, that can't be left out. No Moors that, aren't preaching, right? Preaching, literally preaching. Look at the wording. Economic security. If they're claiming to be leadership and they're not preaching economic security and actually following through and emulating the prophet, there's a problem. You're supposed to be getting land, supposed to be doing these things. So, this is key. And it's time to, to move in that direction. We're supposed to be going in one direction. On that note, though, because I don't want to keep talking. Let's go ahead. I'm going to play this recording. This is me and the Moabites speaking on this topic. This very topic, and just sharing our experience. I think a lot of us could learn from this, and I just want to share this so that we can also spread this message. I need everybody watching this to hit the like and share button and share this so that we can enlighten others and so that the word can get out, because it's time. It's time. And it's not time because I said it. It's time because the prophet said it. He said it 100 years ago, almost 100 years ago, but he was talking about who? He was talking about us. Caveat Emptor is talking about right here and now. Okay, the time the wrath that's sure to come, that's here and now. We're witnessing it. I know it's been going on for a while, but if you really have eyes to see and ears to hear, that things have been speeding up. Okay, the timeline for destruction and all this stuff has sped up. That's why you see all this stuff coming out right now. This is it. Okay. So there's no time to play around. So make sure you hit the share button and let me go on and play this. All right. Peace and love, Moors. Don't go anywhere. Hit the like and share button and listen to this. Anyway, so like I was saying, right. There's this one dude I saw him, he's making videos. You can tell he's upset. He was kind of going at the temple, talking trash, like how they ain't did nothing, they ain't doing nothing. And that's how come people are gravitating towards the consulate, towards the everything else that's out there. The Moors.
The unorganized temples, they have the name temple, but they're not a real temple by the work that they're doing. They just have the label as temple, and when productive people come there, they get turned away because, it's not what you would think it will be, because it's not functioning properly like the prophet set it up.
Exactly, because if you actually look into what the prophet brought, which the temple I ain't gonna say the temple. A lot of these Fugazi temples aren't even teaching. The prophet said the greatest fight we face is economic slavery, and we're supposed to be industrious. We're supposed to be patronizing each other's business, supporting each other's businesses, starting businesses, And that can't occur if, they're not doing it. They're not encouraging it. They're stifling things. They're just doing a lot of micromanagement on things that aren't progressive and keeping people stuck. You know, trying to keep people worried about titles and things like that, of that nature. And so, yeah, that's going to turn people off. Because like you said, they're coming in expecting to be something great or at least to be progressive, and it's not. And so, you know, there's some temples that are doing what they're supposed to, and big ups to them.
Honors to those Muslims.
Yes, because you setting the example. But there's this like this brother though, it's just one example. But I seen this a couple times. The brother was upset. He's talking about how the temple ain't doing what it's supposed to.
We've seen this for years.
And you know, he's with the street stuff, because it's like, okay, well, you know, here they can help get people out of jail and all this stuff, right? And then like a year later, because I tried to talk to that brother on the side, just saying like, yo, that stuff is fugazi too. You know, all that stuff, man, none of that stuff works. He found it out on his own. I see like a year later, he's on YouTube and he going at RV Bay publications and the consulate and all of that mess. Right? And he's like, y'all not with the prophet. You're not doing what you're supposed to. You know, it's like he figured it out. And it's cool because you see people starting to wake up. Right? A lot of people waking up. Unfortunately, a lot of people finding out the hard way from wasting their time with that stuff that it don't work. Right? The people trying to get over, trying to drive with these little made-up driver's licenses and all this stuff. Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought none of that. He insulated us so that we're protected, so that we can do what we need to do to empower ourselves, right? You know, and so, you know, it's funny because people are actually waking up. There is a revolution occurring as far as mentally. People are starting to realize what's real and what's fake. And it just because you don't see it on TV and it's getting no coverage doesn't mean it's not happening. Right? We cover it on Moors in America, but you know, like it's real and it's organic and it's grassroots level, so it doesn't get all the big bright lights and you don't see it on CNN because what they show you on TV is programming. It's to keep you, you know, in the program, you know, to keep you talking about what they want you talking about and thinking about. Right? So this is happening within our own communities and it's real. And so people are starting to realize that stuff is fake and people selling diplomatic immunity passports and all this mess. That stuff don't work. The people selling it don't have the power themselves. They're not in any better condition than you. How the hell are they going to sell you something, right? And so people are starting to realize it, you know. And now you know that those people are just trying to get over. They're just trying to make money off of what they think is a gimmick, I guess.
But we can't get mad at those brothers and sisters, you know, because we live in a society that was created to keep us down and to keep us in competition and to keep us getting over on each other. It's all about survival with our people. And so they see something, they see ways that they can make money, you know, so that they can survive. Even though, you know, it's not the way to go.
It's not. And so, like, you know, yeah, we not mad at anyone, we not hating, but we just pointing this out because, like, if you look at Caveat Emptor from the prophet, right, just look at, I mean, read that whole thing, but just go into the last two lines. He lets you know what time it is, you know? Like, the prophet knows who's real and who's not. He knows who's really on this mission, who's really about the Moorish Divine National Movement, who's really about the upliftment of fallen humanity, okay? And people who think, they think they're on the same road with us, but they're plotters, they're scavengers. They have their own little plan for getting in things. They may want to, they think they're going to get some money. They may want to fleece the money from people. But it doesn't matter what they think they're going to do. They're not on the road, the same road with the true Moors. They're not on the same road. They're far beneath the true Moors, right? And they're not on the same path. That's what that means. They're not on the same road. So they're going on a different path towards their own destruction. And they see it not. Okay? And you need to know this because, hey, it's not all good out here. This, you know, for people who are sincere and genuine, finding out about your history, finding out there's a better way that we can empower ourselves, that you can empower yourself, your family, is great. It's amazing. Okay? And some people are like sitting around like vultures, like they want to take advantage of that. You know, they think you're letting your guard down, and so they come to you saying, oh yeah, I'm a Moor too, and you know, trying to get over on you. Okay? And you need to know they're everywhere. Some of them are even in the temple. They've defiled it. Prophet system. And that's
you know, Negro mentality is real. So that's one portion, and then there's another portion where there's people who are paid to come in and cause confusion. Don't forget about those, you know, bots. We can't forget about the plants that are put in there on purpose to do this and to corrupt the system that was made to be perfect.
That's right. And you know, it's okay though, because the majority of the people are sincere. And so if you have people who've been in the temple, in leadership for years, you know, even I'd say 3 years, 2 years, 3 years or more, and they haven't started any businesses, right? But they've been collecting finances, and they're not acquiring any real estate. Why are they still in those positions? Get them out, because they're not following the prophet. The prophet said our greatest plight is economic slavery, right? And he said that we should be preaching. Okay, we should be preaching economic empowerment, right? So this is a part of our religion. The prophet commanded us to put our businesses and property under either his name or the temple. So this is a part of our religion. So if you got people in leadership who aren't industrious in making these types of moves, they need to be out because they don't follow the prophet. Point blank and simple. He said we can't even attain to the spiritual enjoyments of life if we're a beggar nation, if we're poor, if we're suffering from poverty. So this is a huge part of our religion. And so if they're not helping to empower, if they're not even doing this, then there's no reason for them to be in. And that, you know, it's not like some lifetime thing, you know, for people to get in whatever positions they're in. It's not a lifetime thing. If you're not following the prophet, you gotta go.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's 100% fact. And for the brothers and sisters who send messages asking questions like, how do I know what's a real temple? How do I know if these group of Moors are genuine and sincere and, you know, following the prophet Noble Drali? You have to be observant and you have to ask questions. You can't just run up and start being a part of a group that you know nothing about the people. You know, this is real life. We live in this corrupt society. Like, don't go into anything so naive and trusting like a child, because that's not how this works. Everybody, like they say in the street, all Crips ain't cuz, homie. Like, okay? All skin folk ain't kin folk, right? You have to pay attention. You have to go in there using your 5 senses. Ask these questions and, you know, listen to the answers. Is that what the prophet Noble Drali, is that how he would answer these questions? That's what I always ask myself inside of my head when I ask a Moor or leadership or anything a question, how they answer. I'm like, is that how the prophet would have answered that question? If it's no, nah. Go ahead and back up out of there.
And I would ask the temples what businesses they have, what real estate they have, or how long they've been operating. You know, if they're brand new and they're trying to get started, fine, it's understandable. But, 3 years, come on, something should be popping. Like, you got people gathering together for what? Okay, and also I get the same advice the brother Taj Tariq Bey said when we spoke about this. He said, look, get the actual literature from the prophet. Get the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Nowadays, you can download it. You can buy one off Amazon. Get the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Get the Quran questionnaire, the 101s, and then get Moorish literature. Read it and study it if you're serious, and then you will know who is actually following the prophet or not. And you got to do that, because that's where we're at in this. You know, there are people out here who's not trying to do what they're supposed to do. They have no desire, and you know, some of them don't know because they're clouded by lower self issues. You know, they're trying to get money, or you know, just see this is a way to get over on the people. Okay?
And you're angels, you know? We're angels out here. We're awake in the midst of all the madness and chaos. And we want to do better. We desire to have our own and to be free on our lands. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing. So yes, follow your heart. Guard your mind and your heart. Focus your intentions, because it's not only physical, it's also spiritual. And what you desire will start to unfold within you. And everything that you're looking for and everything that you need will start to come right in your hands. And that's how this works for real. Once you on point and you're in alignment, everything will start just happening for you effortlessly. Like, you just have to have your heart in the right place, because that's how the law of attraction works.
Islam.
So pay attention to these Moors. You know, ask yourself, where are they families? You know, ask yourself, do they have children?
That's big, yeah.
Where are their children during Sunday school holy day? Where are the children? Do the children know any of this? Do they take their parents seriously? And it's like, the answer is no. You don't see their families. You don't see their significant others. You don't see their partners, their wives, whatever. You don't see them. So boom, right there to let you know that this something ain't right.
Don't ignore the warning signs, because like that lets you know right away who's serious or not. If you are all on, you know, on this Moorish stuff, and you out here doing whatever you do, whether they're in the temple or something else, you're all hardcore with this, and you got a whole family with you, and they don't mess with it. Boom, that lets you know he's a scammer. He's not serious, or she is not serious.
And if they are serious, why are they focusing on strangers instead of their own household? Because personally, nothing comes before the household, the family. If the family ain't right, nothing is right. There's no way that these people can lead anybody anywhere if they cannot lead their own seeds.
Yeah, that's like somebody trying to teach everybody how to read, and their own child is struggling to read, and they, you know, it's like, come on. So people, they're gonna, their family's gonna be in there with them. You know, they got a woman, the woman's gonna be in there with them, and they're not just gonna be shacked up. They're gonna be married, because you know, if they're supposed to be Moorish leaders, they're Muslims, and they're gonna be married.
It's in our divine constitution.
And they're gonna be together. Yeah.
The prophet talks about husbands, wives, and children.
There is no shacking up.
There need to be nuclear families.
Yeah, there's no dating and we just friends with benefits. There's none of that. They're supposed to be married, and they're supposed to be in it together. And if they're not, that's your warning sign. Like right then and there. It's like, this fool can't even get, you know, their family on board. Why are they going so hard trying to get y'all on board? And so you really need to look at that stuff, because, you know, I don't care if they're on the internet, they're on the temple or whatever. That's your first warning sign to get. Run. All right? And so you can't be surprised when people come through with schemes. There are clear warning signs. And that's why we say study the Moorish literature, study the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution, and the 101s, which is also called the Quran Questionnaire. And if these people don't line up with those things, don't ignore it. Somebody's supposed to be in leadership. They're getting high. They're getting messed up. They're little, you know, they're a little rough around the edges. They're not even trying to clean themselves up. You shouldn't ignore that. If you see them and you can tell they trying to sleep around with all these different women, if you ignore that, you're setting yourself up for failure. And we've already gone that route with not knocking Christianity, but we've been in the church for centuries now, okay? And how's that worked out for us? We've seen the preachers sleeping around with people's wives and stuff like that. It's not helping the community. We have churches right there in the hood, and the hood. It's dangerous. You know, it's not empowered. They don't have businesses. So we don't want to go that route with this. We want to do this for real. And so Morris, pay attention. Keep your eyes open. Study what the prophet actually brought, and you will be protected. You will know what's real and what's not, and you won't need to ask anyone else.
That's another thing. We meditate so that we could get answers straight from the source. All right? We pray and we meditate so that we can access our power within us. Because Allah is always working for us and through us.
That's right. And people, shouldn't be trying to set themselves up to be like the intermediary between you and the source, because that's not what this is about. You don't have to go through anyone else. And so that's another thing with people with personality worship and people wanting not only to get money, but wanting people to look at them as if they're some type of leader. That's not what this is about. We're going into a new age, the age of Aquarius. It's time out for all that leader, follow the leader, look to them. It's time out for that. Okay? We're in the information age. It's a whole new age. Things like that are like dinosaurs. They're done. They don't exist anymore. So, we don't need that. You can go straight to the source. And as the sister said, you don't need to look to anyone else. You'll know what time it is if you actually study what the prophet brought. And yes, you can actually meditate. You can go within. And you won't be getting taken advantage of, and you'll be on the road to salvation.
Islam. Sometimes it takes years to build that solid foundation, but once you got it, you got it. And it's worth taking the time to study self and to understand what the prophet brought us and what we have and what our assignments are.
And maybe what you're ultimately to do is not to go and join some other group, because maybe the groups around you are dysfunctional and they're not, they're being led astray. Maybe what you're actually going to do is wind up starting a temple with other Moors who are sincere. And that's nothing wrong with that. The prophet set the movement up in perpetuity. That means it doesn't disappear if somebody doesn't file doesn't file anything with the government. It doesn't depend on a lineage, which you have a lot of Moors who try to associate themselves with a lineage to act like they have a direct line to the prophet. And what they're doing is they're copying the Persians, basically, or the Arabs, who you have the Sunnis and the Shiites, who all claim direct lineage to the Prophet Muhammad. And so you have them trying to do the same thing over here. And it's like, you don't need to do that.
Nope.
But they're trying to do that to make themselves seem official in some kind of way. But it's like, look, all you have to do is actually follow the prophet. You're cleaning yourself up. You're cleaning yourself up so that you can subdue your lower self, so that more of the higher self can come through, so that you can actually access the higher powers that you have, the latent powers that you don't even know exist, that you don't even know are real, but they're very real. And so you're subduing that, and then also you're taking care of your earthly needs, because it's a part of our religion to start businesses, to handle our business, to participate in politics. We're getting people in office. We're doing everything that we need to take care of our earthly needs, so that we can focus more on the spiritual. Okay?
Sustainability, upright, right, independent, and fearless. That's exactly,
right. Because we're not subduing the lower self and meditating and doing all of these things if you're struggling to survive. Struggling just to get your head above the water. So we're taking care of our earthly needs so that we can truly realize our potential. All right, that's what it's about. And that's why also, it wasn't about getting everybody on board, because everybody ain't going to be on board. Who cares? It don't matter how big or small our community is. It's about making sure that we're on the right path so that we can survive the wrath of Allah that is sure to come. It's here. That's why maybe you see stuff that might be scary on the news, all this stuff that they're doing. It's here. That's how come some of y'all worried about the things they're trying to force everybody to do and take, right? And that's why some people are trying to get on board with the temple now, because you're trying to, escape this stuff, this wrath that is sure to come. And so that's what it was about, making sure that we're on the path to salvation, regardless of what's going on around us. And that's why you can set this up. All you have to do is get together, study yourself, with your family, and then with other Moors. You got 3 Moors, you got your chairman, you move the unit to do. And you don't have to go through anybody else. People saying you got to go through me, they're lying. They've been lying for decades. It doesn't work. Okay, you got people who've been claiming that lineage for decades, and they have done nothing. They don't even have one farm. And there's people claiming the lineage going back to the prophet. Okay, so you've been going back to 1928. You don't have any farms? Where's the Moorish towns? Where's the Moorish mayor? This is what the prophet spoke of. You want your own mayor? You want your own sheriff and all this stuff? This is actually what the prophet said. So if you don't claim that, because it's a shame. You have none of this. So there's no power in going with you. You don't have it. The prophet ain't with you, because if it was, you would be successful and prosperous. And so this is what it's about. It's not about trying to find a scheme to get over and to sound official. Just do the work. Even if nobody knows who you are, you're not popular, do the work and you will be blessed. All right? And Moors don't fall for the okie doke.
Islam. And that takes us back to studying ourselves and finding that balance, because it's all in balance. Once we understand the power that's within us, and we start tapping into that power and connecting directly to the source, we don't need a middleman. We are to imitate the prophet. That means do what the prophet did, right? And we don't need a middleman. We just have to understand what we have so that we can create locally with our families first, and then start building with our brothers and sisters on solid foundation. Because nobody with a sound mind, who is already successful, who already have a good head between their shoulders, understanding, and just not with the BS, there's no way that they want to come into something that's sloppy, messy, chaotic, and dangerous. Because you have too much to lose at that point. You're like, why would I step down to be a part of something that is not even on my level? Yeah. So we have to understand how it got to this point. And yes, honest to our brothers and sisters who came in from lower vibrational situations, who was following behind the European, who was devil, dragon, Lucifer, Satan, beast, because that's all a part of our lower nature. Now, when you learn to subdue that, then you could live, on higher grounds. But honors to the brothers and sisters who came from the low, came from the streets, came into this movement and cleaned themselves up, and was and still is an example to other brothers and sisters coming in to clean themselves up and to do positive work in the community, because that is necessary.
Without you losing your train of thought, just hold that. Also, honors to the brothers and sisters that are millionaires, they own real estate, they have businesses as well. That want to come into the movement, they know they're more, like, honors to them too. Because, like, you know, the prophet had Jesse Binga as a member. Jesse Binga owned banks, owned multiple real estate in Chicago. Like, he had brother who they wound up putting in Congress, you know, on board, a member, and several others. So there's people, you know, from all walks of life, you know.
Yeah.
And you can't bring these people in if you aren't moving like the prophet.
That's right.
Bottom line, if they turned off, if they staying away, it's because you're not right. Because as the sister said, you got too much to lose to be fooling around with people who aren't even taking it seriously.
Islam. And that takes us right back to that balance. We have to have a balance. We can't have too many apples when it's supposed to be apples and oranges, when it's supposed to be a mixture of fruit, because we need all the nutrients and minerals. You understand? Like, it has to be a balance. And when you find that balance, you'll know. And when you run into these issues and these red flags, just remember what you heard on this podcast. You know, it's just letting you know never to go into any situation with your eyes closed, because you're too good for that.
Yeah, I want to add to that too, like, don't let Moors talk you out of that. Like, stick to the prophet. Moors will tell you, oh, none of us are perfect and blah, blah, blah. We're not perfect. We are not perfect. But people in Moors who are in leadership are to be held to a higher standard. They're not to be out here getting high and drunk. They're not to be out here womanizing or, you know, sleeping around with a bunch of different dudes, right? They're to be married, okay? Their families are supposed to be in because they have to set an example. So that's an issue. That has to be, those are red flags that you can spot a mile away. You don't overlook that stuff. The prophet laid it down. He said these people, grant anything, if they're not in alignment, they can't hold those positions. So you can't overlook those things. It's not about judging. It's about keeping it real. And so that's why the movement is where it's at. And that's why I said, like, if these temples have been up and operated for 2, 3 or more years, they don't have any business or at least prospects that they really about to move on. You need to keep it moving, because there's no excuse. The prophet, you know, really got things up and running. I would say 3 years, but, you know, it was brewing for longer than that. So, you know, six years or less. Now, if you want to go off of the actual filing, he did it in 3 years. Okay? 1926 to 1928. And guess what? They had businesses, they had property and land before he set up the Supreme Grand Council and all that. He did all that last. Okay? So, Morris, study and you will notice. And you will be good. You will be on solid ground. That's why the prophet is lifting humanity out of the cares of the world onto the solid rock of salvation. All you have to do is study and you'll be good. And on that note, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
All right, Islam more. So thank you all for watching this. I want to thank everybody who's also sharing, helping to spread this out. For anyone who came on late, make sure that you go back and watch the video from the beginning. We read Caveat Emptor. We discussed the significance and how it applies to us today, which I think is important for all of us to have an understanding on. Like, this isn't just some old document, right? The Caveat Emptor from the past. The prophet was speaking into the future and speaking about things that relate to us right here and now and relate to our success and posterity right here and now, and avoiding the wrath which is sure to come. So definitely this is of key interest to all Moors. Make sure you hit that like and share button And on that note, Moors, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. Peace and love, everybody.